Good evening, dear compatriots. This is already our second broadcast of the day, and during this program we will discuss a number of important issues related to Armenia. And not only that, but also issues concerning Ukraine, as both Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin have made significant statements. But let's traditionally start with Armenia. Today it was announced that an interagency commission is being established by the decision of the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, which will coordinate the issue of changing the national security strategy of the Republic of Armenia. And this revision of the national strategy is really very interesting for us. In addition, we have information that this evening the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia will make an appeal or speech. It will mainly be of an ideological nature and, in my opinion, will touch on this specific issue. He will answer the question of reviewing the national security strategy, as well as in an ideological sense, perhaps also at Robert Kocharyan's press conference. True, not directly, but probably in an ideological sense. We will find an answer in that statement, in that call. Naturally, it is difficult. It is difficult to predict what the speech will be. I can also add that some of it may also relate to today's general world, to the political processes that are taking place in the world, although it is less likely, but I cannot rule that out either. We will see what statement to make, what appeal there will be. After that, we will be able to analyze that appeal or that statement in more detail. Regarding Armenia, that is, issues related to Armenia, it can also be noted that today, in Israel, a meeting took place between Hikmet Hajiev, head of the Foreign Relations Department of the Azerbaijani presidential administration, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This is, if I'm not mistaken, the second meeting in 1 month or 1 month and a half, tomorrow's 1 month and a half. In all honesty, it is very interesting what the parties are discussing so often. And naturally, such meetings will become a cause for quite serious concern for the Armenian side, taking into account the military technical cooperation between Israel and Azerbaijan, as well as the Israelis. Our interest in the region, and today information was also spread that the Armenian Patriarchate, it has problems again with the courts and the states, and in an interesting way. These news also coincide with each other, but it is also very sad that when the Secretary of State of the United States of America visits the Resurrection Cathedral and meets with Armenian clergy, it is very sad that the Armenian clergy are powerless to speak out, and this issue is raised with the Secretary of State of the United States of America, and in general, very socially. I am acting very weakly, so that they cannot take this issue internationally and draw much attention to the issue. Now let's move on to international issues. Today, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky made an important statement. In fact, he referred to Trump's statement as well as. In that Russian-American negotiation that took place in Saudi Arabia, it is now impossible to determine the situation in Ukraine. He was talking about the presidential elections, and he clearly told Trump that under no circumstances will presidential elections be held now. We also know that General Giray is currently visiting Kiev, and his generation urge him to definitely walk the streets of Kiev. Anyone can ask what his views are on the war, what he thinks about whether it's worth holding presidential elections now. Regarding American assistance and so on, according to the Ukrainian president, he doesn't need any intermediaries. To go to the streets of Kiev and talk directly with the people to hear their opinions. He is also ready to visit the front lines at any moment to have the opportunity to speak with and exchange views with the soldiers who are participating in the military operations. He has been talking for quite a long time about the US-Ukraine relations, In fact, he noted that the United States has been providing very important assistance and in some cases even irreplaceable help, especially regarding air defense, where US support is extremely crucial. In his opinion, the European Union could indeed fully replace that assistance. However, if the United States decides not to sell weapons, this poses a serious problem for Ukraine's strategic relationship, as outlined in that document. What happens if the United States decides not to sell weapons to Ukraine? There is also an interesting statement from the European Union. The head of EU diplomacy, Josep Borrell, has stated that if Brussels and Kiev do not accept the agreements that may be reached between Russia and the United States, then it is very likely that the agreements made that day will have no value and could simply collapse. Brussels and Kiev may not agree on that arrangement. And this is also a very logical continuation of our analysis, where we said that now the European Union will decide to support Ukraine, increasing financial aid and also sending military personnel. Now, this is what France and Great Britain are discussing. Then it is unlikely that the United States of America will be able to force Ukraine to make peace. Neither Russia nor the United States. In that case, they will not be able to force Ukraine to make concessions. However, on the other hand, if we are to be more honest, I don't think everything will come to that. If the United States decides to stop selling weapons to Europeans and Ukrainians, and also decides to withdraw American troops from European countries and lift sanctions on the Russian economy, which would strengthen the Russian economy, then this war will become much more complicated if the European Union starts to help Ukraine much more. It could drag on for a long time. But I don't think, to be honest, that such a scenario will happen where the United States completely lifts sanctions against Russia and stops selling weapons to Ukraine and the European Union. This is most likely much less probable in my view. In the coming days, if not weeks, we will once again be in the position of the United States of America. We will see an interesting change. At the level of statements and in general at the level of approaches, I cannot. Naturally, I can't insist on 100%, like some people like to express opinions with 100% guarantees. And then, when they are wrong, they forget about it, and we just talk about this and that. This is very likely or unlikely, and in my opinion, it is very likely that there will be another shift in the position of the United States that will be more favorable for Ukraine and Europe than the current situation. Just recently, Russian President Vladimir Putin made a statement that Russia is ready to return to the negotiating table, and Russia has also taken the first steps in that direction to restore dialogue with the United States on various issues. Putin also noted that in the Middle East, until trust between the parties, specifically between the American and Russian sides, is essential. Without that mutual trust, it is impossible to achieve peace, and the Ukrainian issue cannot be resolved directly. Here we go. As for the extraordinary summit taking place in Paris, the second extraordinary summit, at this moment we still do not have any information. I think it will also be very interesting and important when we receive the first details. If we do get them, we will even provide a new report today, later, or already tomorrow morning. I believe that both Nikol Pashinyan's statement and from the European Union summit, we will definitely have important topics to discuss in this statement. That's all, dear compatriots. I once again urge everyone, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye. See you soon.